we're staying in the skeletal system because I'm going to talk about cartilage repair. So we go on top of the bones. So the next 10 minutes or so, we will be focusing on joint health and how to treat cartilage. So basically, there's a problem in cartilage repair. So the current methods to treat cartilage, they are really far from optimal. And there are many reasons how cartilage can get damaged, but the bottom line is that when the cartilage lesion really reaches the underlying bone, you really start to feel it. And we know that these cartilage lesions, they propagate to osteoarthrosis, which is one of the main causes of functional impairment in working age adults. And pretty much the only surgical treatment for the end-stage osteoarthritis is total joint prosthesis, which obviously is really far from optimal. And there's really no treatments to actually restore the original quantity and quality of the cartilage tissue, which looks really simple, but actually in the cell biological perspective is far something else than simple. The way cartilage is treated today really results in high costs. And this means for the patient, for the 242 million of them, it means pain, diminished quality of life, inability to work. For the doctor, it means that there's a huge unmet medical need, which they really cannot treat. And for the society, it generates billions of costs from the work absences, from the concomitant diseases, you name it. So what we have done, we have created a way to overcome these issues. And with our solution, we can really offer a complete recovery in shorter time, high therapeutic success, and remarkable cost savings. So how do we actually do that? So we do that with a medical device we call Copla scaffold. Copla comes from the collagen and PLA, which are the components of the device. It's a class 3 medical device. So it's really designed to work in the weight-bearing joints. So it's adaptive to the loading, and this lies in the detailed structure of the scaffold. When the patient is moving, it's stimulating the cells with that loading, and that's hugely important for getting the right type of tissue. So we don't get scar tissue to the joint, we actually get the proper joint tissue. It's suitable for large defects. There's no size limitations. You can treat as big or as deep defect you want because this can be just layered. It degrades in line with cartilage regeneration, which takes a long time. So our scaffold stays there around 2 years, really supporting the healing. And this mesh is actually inserted in surgery, in arthroscopic or open surgery, depending on the case. It's an add-on on a current therapy, so the surgeon who is really basically cleaning the lesion site is adding this reparative construct. So it's kind of easy to take in as a new way of treating. At the moment, we are already generating early revenues and clinical proof for veterinary patients, so we are selling the device for veterinary orthopedics, for dogs and horses. So basically, with Copla scaffold, we can really stop this vicious cycle, and we are able to really restore the original quantity and quality of the highly sophisticated tissue. So what do we want to do, really? We want to, of course, be the #1 choice of treatment for cartilage lesions. Of course. So our background is strongly in the science. So through our 7 years in academia, where we actually developed this scaffold, we did the preclinical testing and demonstrated that the Copla scaffold is really safe and it's highly chondrogenic, so it actually creates the proper type of cartilage. Askel Healthcare was established almost 2 years ago, so next month is going to be our 2-year anniversary. And we have a unique know-how and in-house capabilities of actually producing the scaffold, so we make it ourselves. And we have outstanding veterinary clinical proof following 12 months post-operation and counting. All our patients are doing extremely well. So, okay, a huge unmet medical need, a lot of money involved. So you guess right, there's competition. So orthobiology is a really active field, which is a really nice thing. There's basically 4 different categories you can categorize cartilage repair, and there's products and there's companies in all of them, for sure. But the thing is that all these methods have their own limitations. With all these different ways of treating, there's a lot of limitations. And back in 2010, when we started really focusing on how to create that kind of environment into the joint space that we can unleash the potential that there is inside the body, we started to listing these things, that what is actually missing, what are the current drawbacks. They haven't changed in the past 8 years, really. And we started to tick these boxes. So I can really say that we are in the sweet spot. We have a unique market position in the $2 billion orthobiologics market. We are the only scaffold, only device that can bring those properties that the market is really at the moment looking for. So it's truly regenerative, bringing long-term benefits. It's not a scar tissue creating, postponing the total joint prosthesis a few years. We are really going back in time in a way. Immediate load bearing is something that nobody else really has. It enables fast recovery because patients can start moving quickly. And by moving quickly, I mean that when they can have the loading to the operated joint, that's such an important message for the developing tissue that the mesenchymal stem cells understand to create cartilage. And also for patient satisfaction, it's much nicer to be walking around without the crutches than with the crutches. And even more important in veterinary patients, because you really can't tell a horse that put 20% weight on the operated limb. It just stands up. So you need to have this kind of load adaptation capabilities. Covers majority of the patient cases because we don't have the size limitation. We can treat small or large or deep defects. And it's super easy to use. And that's why we will take the leader position in the market. As I mentioned, we have been around almost 2 years. So what have we been doing? Showing some of the key things that we are actually kind of efficient little team. So we have been, of course, raising money all the time. All the startups do this. We have been successful and quite inventive, going through crowdfunding and such, gathering 2.1 million in the last 2 years. I'm really proud that we have been able to produce for sale 2 batches of the scaffold. We are building our own production facility. While we don't have all the machinery yet, we are renting part of the machinery from the university, which we have, of course, good relationships. So that's why we are able to produce the product even though we don't have the production yet. That's kind of funny. I'm really happy that we were able to treat our first patient less than 7 months after we were established. That's pretty quick, and that patient is doing super well, and all the patients treated so far are all healthy. We have strengthened our IP and actually done some R&D ourselves, so we have developed an instrument for inserting the scaffold arthroscopically. Going to be important thing in humans, and for now it's really important for the horses, which they don't actually do open procedures. That has been, the patent application has been sent. And also, well, the copyright registered trademark. We hired our first salesperson for the veterinary sales. That was a nice thing, kind of, to really focus on the vet sales. We have an agreement with the Scandinavia's biggest veterinary chain, Evidensia, part of the huge IVC. That means that all the veterinary orthopedics in Finland are partnering with us, and we are collecting clinical evidence. That clinical evidence will, of course, be used for the veterinary business, but it will be important when we bring this to the human use, so we will have real-life patient data, so we don't have to go through all of those hoops that you have in the animal testing while you do the CE marking. And one of the kind of huge things was that last month we started in this European Commission-funded Horizon 2020 project. We are part of a consortium of 10 partners from 8 countries, 3.5 years, 5.5 million funding for developing further our scaffold. So it was a nice validation from the Commission that this is really important. So we are planning on adding on some medicinal components to the scaffold to be able, in the later years, to also treat osteoarthrosis. So who's behind it? We have a team of 5 people, really unique mix of competencies coming from tissue engineering to orthopedics and you name it. But of course, 5 people can do everything, and there's lack of competencies when you have only 5 people. So we have been really focusing on getting a clinical and scientific and business advisor network who are helping us at the moment, and really we have been able to move quite quickly with this enlarged team. And of course, in the next stage, when we are now looking for the funding, is part of also bringing the company bigger as getting these experts, actually, these more business expertise into the team. That's really important. So next 2 years, what we want to achieve is we want to be ready for the human clinical trial. We want to move forward as quickly as possible with the CE marking pathway. Build strong clinical evidence from the veterinary cases to support the human development, and also, of course, bring revenues from the veterinary sales. We want to be able to show our investors the legendary hockey stick model. We will strengthen the IP and R&D mainly through the Horizon project, which is kind of our huge R&D generator, and as I mentioned, strengthening the management team with people with industry knowledge and networks. So how do we actually do this? And we need money to do this, so we are looking for 3 to 5 million investments that will be leveraged to the 5 million with revenues from the veterinary sales, loans and grants, such as we are applying in the autumn time, the Horizon SME Phase 2 grants. So these kind of big grants are going to be used to support us. Yeah, I think that was my last slide, so I'm happy to take any questions, and I can discuss with you later. I have a few scaffolds with me if you want to touch and feel it, and I can tell you more about it. Thank you so much.